Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the Amica Mutual Pavillion in Providence, Rhode Island. And tonight's Monday Night Raw was the go-home shows to both Saturday night's main event and Evolution. It's going to be a big weekend for us pro wrestling fans. We have NXT Great American Bash happening on Saturday in Atlanta. Same with Saturday night's main event and Evolution. So we also have AEW All In from Texas on Saturday, which is going to be going up against NXT. Of course, Saturday night's main event is going to be on at 8 o'clock. And then Sunday we have Evolution. So big weekend for us. But Monday Night Raw tonight, I thought the show was pretty mediocre, in my opinion. If you missed Monday Night Raw tonight, you missed absolutely nothing. And WWE, of course, did nothing to hype us up for Saturday night's main event and Evolution this weekend. But tonight on the show, we had Kairi Sane. She ended up taking on Roxanne Perez. Bron Breakker was in action, and he ended up taking on Sami Zayn. We had Mr. Yeet, Jey Uso. He took on Bronson Reed. We had El Grande Americano. Yeah, we're still continuing with this El Grande Americano shit. Which, unfortunately, Chad Gable is out injured. So, we all know that Chad Gable is El Grande Americano, but they replaced Chad Gable, since he's out, with Ludwig Kaiser. It was confirmed that Ludwig Kaiser is El Grande Americano. He's taking over for Chad Gable, and we saw that last week on Monday Night Raw, where it was in a backstage segment with American Made, and we were like, oh, that's not Chad Gable as El Grande Americano, because you could tell from like the eyes, right immediately there, it was Ludwig Kaiser. But El Grande Americano ended up taking on Dragon Lee. And the main event, Seth Rollins ended up taking on Penta El Cero Miedo. Yes, that was Monday Night Raw tonight. Overall, mediocre show it was. And in my opinion, at points, very boring. But anyway, let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw open up tonight from Providence, Rhode Island with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed end up making their way out. Of course, Paul Heyman was shown holding Rollins' Money in the Bank briefcase, which I like that they spruced up on Rollins' Money in the Bank briefcase, where they made it all black, and in the O for money, you had Seth Rollins' logo in there. I think it looks cool. So they gave Rollins a custom made Money in the Bank briefcase, just for him. So of course Rollins is going to be taking on LA Knight this Saturday at Saturday night's main event. So we had Rollins, Paul Heyman, Bron Breakker, and Bronson Reed. They were in the ring. Rollins extended his hand, and Paul Heyman was going to hand Rollins the mic. Bron Breakker walked through both Rollins and Heyman, and he took the mic himself. So we had Rollins and Paul Heyman and Bronson Reed. They looked all confused in the ring because they thought, oh, we're going to hear what Rollins had to say. Nope. Bron Breakker just walked through them. So Breakker got on the mic. He ended up saying that he is standing in the ring because both Seth Rollins and the wise man, Paul Heyman, have a vision that has him as the face of the company for the next 2 decades. Bron Breakker saying that he probably might not be wrong about that. So Breakker ended up saying that he also has a vision of a WWE without Sami Zayn. He ended up saying that he doesn't like Sami, and he doesn't like his ugly face, or his stupid beard, or his music, or the fact that people sing along to Sami's music. Which Bron Breakker's voice ended up cracking there when he was explaining, about how much he doesn't like Sami Zayn. So Breakker ended up saying that he will never understand why people will cheer for someone with the athletic ability of a dead fish. He ended up saying that Sami has never played sports and he doesn't go to the gym. He ended up saying that Sami is hanging on for dear life to hang on for another 5 years to squeeze the last bit of water from the rag. Breakker ended up saying that Sami has an expiration date and he will put a stamp on that expiration date tonight. Breakker ended up saying that he promises that if Sami walks down the ramp, he will maul him, and that Sami will be looking at the lights by the end of it. So Paul Heyman ended up approaching Breakker, and he ended up asking Breakker for the mic. Breakker then gave the mic to Heyman. Heyman then gave the mic to Rollins. Rollins was shown asking if Breakker is good. And Bronson Reed then motioned to take the mic. So Bronson Reed took the mic as the fans were chanting for CM Punk. Bronson Reed ended up saying that Bron Breakker is a tough act to follow, but so is he. He ended up saying that he's the man who hit Rollins with 6 tsunamis, hurting him so badly that it formed respect between the both of them. He ended up saying that Rollins brought him into this group and his vision. He ended up saying with that vision, he will get the respect that he deserves. He ended up saying that Jey does not respect him. So Bronson Reed ended up saying that tonight he will tsunami the respect into Jey Uso, just like he did to Seth freaking Rollins. So Rollins then took the mic and then he gave it to Paul Heyman. So Paul Heyman got on the mic. He did his whole shtick. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. He ended up saying tonight, the Empire strikes back. So good nod Heyman did there to Star Wars. So good on you, Heyman, for mentioning one of the best Star Wars films in the original trilogy. To which Paul Heyman ended up saying, "Oh, that was a blooper. You could see it later on YouTube tonight." He ended up saying that tonight the Empire will strike first. He ended up saying first on their list is Sami Zayn, which Paul Heyman ended up saying that he won't try to follow that promo from Bron Breakker. He ended up saying that if Sami hasn't hightailed it back to Montreal, it's his ass and not his. Paul Heyman ended up saying tonight we'll have Bronson Reed versus Jey Uso. Paul Heyman ended up saying that he has love for his former Bloodline member in Jey Uso. He ended up saying, but Roman Reigns doesn't have the balls to come back and step up against them. To which the crowd ended up chanting OTC. Paul Heyman then ended up saying that the OTC is MIA. He ended up saying after tonight, Jey Uso will be MIA. And it's all thanks to the master of the tsunami, Bronson Reed. Paul Heyman then ended up saying that the big news is that Seth Rollins, who pinned Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania, will don the tights against Penta. So Paul Heyman ended up speaking in Spanish. Don't understand, what he was saying in Spanish. And he ended up saying that he doesn't understand Penta's hand signals, with the cero miedo. He ended up saying by the time he stomped into the mat tonight, Penta will be in no shape to do those hand signals ever again. To which Paul Heyman was like, that's not a prediction. That's a spoiler. So Paul Heyman then handed the mic to Rollins. Rollins ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that they covered everything. So there's only one thing left to say. He ended up saying, Providence, welcome to Monday Night Rollins. And pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But overall, I thought this was a good segment to open the show. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed both delivered very good promos here. Bron Breakker, talking about how he doesn't like Sami Zayn and everything that, he doesn't like about Sami. Bronson Reed going on to, say how he doesn't like Jey Uso. But very good promo this was. And Seth Rollins did not have to speak one bit until the end of the promo. But we got all that, and still, no name of this group here. No name. When are we going to get an official name for this group? Please. Let's get a name for the group already. And then we went to the Judgment Day Clubhouse. So we had Finn Balor was admiring all of the titles that the Judgment Day has accumulated. Dominic Mysterio with the Intercontinental Championship, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez with the Women's Tag Team titles, which Roxanne Perez is replacing Liv Morgan for the time being because Liv is out. And of course, last week, JD McDonough and Finn Balor defeated the New Day to become the new World Tag Team Champions. So Raquel Rodriguez walked in, and she demanded to know what is going on. And the camera panned to a memorial that was set up for Liv Morgan. You had the candles, there. And Raquel ended up saying that Liv Morgan is still alive. This was all done by Roxanne Perez that set up this memorial for Liv Morgan. So Raquel ended up saying to Roxanne that Liv Morgan is still alive and rehabbing every day, and that she'll be back soon. So Balor ended up reminding Raquel that it took him a long time to come back from his shoulder injury. So Raquel ended up saying that it would be a prettier picture if her and Roxanne retained their women's tag team titles at Evolution. She ended up saying that Roxanne Perez needs to do what she said she would do and beat Kairi Sane. So Roxanne Perez was like to Raquel, oh, I've got you, partner. I'll beat Kairi Sane tonight. So Raquel ended up saying that's too soon. She then blew a kiss to Liv Morgan's picture, and both her and Roxanne walked off. So JD McDonough ended up asking Balor if he knows their plans. To which Balor ended up telling McDonough he doesn't know what these plans are. So McDonough ended up saying that Adam Pearce's office is right down the hall and that they should go over to see him. So Dominic ended up pointing to the cake. There was a cake also on the table. And he ended up thanking Balor and McDonough for getting it for him. To which Balor and McDonough were like to Dominic, "Oh, we didn't get you that cake." And Dominic ended up going over to the cake, and he opened it because the cake was still in, in a plastic case. So the cake ended up saying, "Get well soon, Dom," from AJ. And of course, AJ Styles was the one who got Dominic the cake, and we saw Styles and it emerging from the shadows. And he was watching Dominic, to which Dominic saw Styles, and Dominic ended up saying that he has a doctor's note. He has a doctor's note. But Styles disappeared. Styles, channeling his inner Undertaker there. So pretty much that was basically that. And then we had the first match of the night. Kairi Sane versus Roxanne Perez. This was a okay match here. Of course, Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez are going to defend their women's tag team titles this Sunday at Evolution in a fatal four-way match, which they are going to defend against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte and Sol Ruca and Zarya of NXT. And we still don't know the team from Raw yet that's going to be competing in this fatal four-way. So the match ended up getting away. Kairi and Roxanne ended up blocking up. Roxanne started clubbing away at Kairi and slinged Kairi down. Roxanne started punching away at Kairi. She then bounced Kairi in the corner. She raked Kairi's face on the top rope. Roxanne then put Kairi in the corner, but Kairi started to fight back at Perez. Perez ducked a cutlass from Kairi and applied a side headlock. Kairi ended up elbowing Perez off, but Perez took Kairi down by her hair. Perez hit the ropes, and it looked like they mistimed, a move that they were going to do. So Perez ended up applying a side headlock. Kairi ended up whipping Perez off, and she ended up going for the cutlass, but Perez ended up pulling onto the ropes, and she ended up going to the apron. Perez then grabbed Kairi and ended up snapping her off the ropes. Perez then ended up charging Kairi in the corner, but Kairi ended up avoiding that, and she ended up rolling Perez up, to which Perez kicked out. Perez ended up rolling Kairi up, to which Kairi kicked out. So they started to trade pins here. So we had Kairi end up going for a submission, but Perez ended up grabbing the ropes. Perez ended up stunning Kairi with a strike, which ended up sending Kairi into the ropes. Kairi then ducked a clothesline from Perez, and she had pinned a Hess's a takeover. And Kairi then ended up stunning Perez with a cutlass. She ended up connected with a sliding forearm to Perez's face. Perez then rolled out of the ring to recover. Kairi then ended up diving off the apron with a forearm to Perez's face. Kairi then ended up getting Perez in the ring, and she ended up going up to the top rope. So Raquel Rodriguez distracted Kairi, and this led to Perez ended up pulling Kairi down from the top rope. Perez then pulled Kairi over to the turnbuckle and snapped her arm off of the turnbuckle. So Kairi ended up going to ringside and started holding her arm in pain. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Kairi was in control of the match. She ended up pinning a pair of hammers to Perez. She ended up pinning a flipping neck breaker to Perez. Kairi started to walk the plank. She then ended up pinning a sliding forearm smash in the corner to Perez. Kairi then ended up going to the top rope, and she ended up jumping over Perez because Perez moved out of the way. Perez then rolled Kairi up, to which Kairi kicked out. So at the end of the match, we had Kairi end up heading to the top rope, and Raquel Rodriguez pulled Perez out of the ring. Kairi then ended up coming off the top rope with a cross body block, to the floor on Raquel Rodriguez. So Kairi then ended up going over to the camera and she celebrated a bit, but that was when Perez ended up attacking Kairi and she ended up getting Kairi into the ring. Kairi then avoided the pop rocks and she ended up catching Roxanne Perez with a backslide pin. So there you go. Kairi Sane ended up winning the match. And Roxanne Perez was shocked at the outcome there. So post-match, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, they double teamed up on Kairi. Raquel then booted Kairi down. So this brought out Asuka. Of course, Asuka was Kairi's, tag team partner, the Kabuki Warriors. So Asuka ended up running down to make the save for Kairi. Asuka ended up taking Roxanne Perez down. She stunned Raquel Rodriguez with a backhand. Perez then ended up being the same fate from Asuka. Raquel then clotheslined Asuka down. Raquel was setting up for the Tejana Bomb for Asuka, and she ended up holding Asuka up. And then Kairi Sane ended up drop kicking Raquel, to which Raquel ended up almost going over the top rope, to which Asuka ended up applying an armbar. So Kairi then ended up pushing Raquel over the top rope. Asuka then ended up hitting Raquel with an Empress attack. She then ended up pulling Perez up for the insane elbow. So that was that. The Kabuki Warriors were reunited there with Asuka and Kairi Sane. And pretty much that was basically that. Overall, okay match it was between Kairi Sane and Roxanne Perez here. And then we saw Jackie Redmond. Jackie Redmond was backstage with Sami Zayn. Of course, Sami Zayn was attacked by Karrion Kross last week, where Karrion Kross ended up attacking Sami with a steel pipe. And, of course, the injury, in the night cost Sami Zayn a match where he ended up teaming with Penta to take on Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker. And, of course, Jey Uso ended up making the save. They played that tonight. So, Jackie Redmond ended up mentioning that Sami is balancing Karrion Kross and Bron Breakker. And how is Sami managing all of this? Sami ended up telling Jackie Redmond that he has too much on his plate and that he would love to deal with his injured ribs, but he can't. He ended up saying that he would love to pay more attention to Karrion Kross, who was probably lurking around. He ended up saying all he can think about right now is Bron Breakker. Sami ended up saying that he doesn't care if Breakker likes him, his music, and his beard. He ended up saying that Breakker is a dangerous man, so he has to concentrate on him. So Sami then walked off, and Scarlett walked up to Jackie Redmond. Jackie Redmond ended up asking if Scarlett has something to say. Scarlett simply said no. So she continued to look in the direction that Sami Zayn walked off in. But that was basically that. And then, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw American Made. We saw the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile. They were talking with Adam Pearce, and they were concerned about El Grande Americano competing. So Bruce ended up saying that it's impossible because Chad Gable is hurt. So Julius ended up slapping Brutus because Brutus was like, how is that impossible? Chad Gable is hurt. So that led to Julius slapping Brutus on the back of his head. Pearce ended up asking what Gable has to do with it. Bruce ended up saying that El Grande Americano can't compete. And Pearce ended up saying that El Grande Americano requested the match himself. And Ivy Nile ended up saying that she wants a spot in the Battle Royal at Evolution. Pearce ended up saying to Ivy Nile that she is in the Battle Royal. So Ivy Nile was happy about that, and American Made ended up leaving. So then Asuka and Kairi Sane end up coming in. Asuka ended up saying to Pierce that they want to talk about Evolution. So Adam Pierce ended up saying that both Asuka and Kairi Sane will represent Raw in the Fatal 4-Way to take down the Judgment Day. So, of course, the Kabuki Warriors were reunited, and, of course, they ended up dancing. Pierce was dancing in the background, which he looked absolutely awful. So, yeah, the Kabuki Warriors, they're going to be competing in the Fatal 4-Way match. So, yeah, so now they're going to be facing Roxanne, Perez, and Raquel Rodriguez, and Alexa Bliss, Charlotte of SmackDown, and Sol Ruca, and Zarya of NXT. So, there's your Fatal 4-Way at Evolution. And now we had a promo from Nikki Bella. God. Nikki ended up saying that it's been a few weeks since she's been back, and she wanted to talk about Evolution. But instead, she got into a confrontation with Liv Morgan. She ended up saying that Liv Morgan questioned her womanhood, her legacy, and attacked her. She ended up saying that it lit a fire in her. Nikki ended up saying that she wants to return to the ring to have one more moment to prove to her fans and the Bella Army what she can do. Please no. Please no. Who wants to see Nikki Bella in the ring in 2025? She ended up saying that she wants to show her son what the WWE Universe has seen. She ended up saying that she will be in the Battle Royal, and she'll be facing the best woman in WWE. But she'll do whatever it takes to win. Spoiler alert, she's not winning. She ended up saying that she wants the title opportunity at Clash in Paris, because whoever wins the Battle Royal will get to have a championship opportunity at Clash in Paris in August. She ended up saying that you don't run from your past. You build a future that no one can ever take. And she will prove why she is fearless. Nikki Bella is not winning the Battle Royal. So then we saw Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was making his way to the ring to have his match against Bron Breakker. And as he walked down the aisleway, Karrion Kross attacked Sami from behind. Kross had the steel pipe, and he ended up smashing Sami Zayn in the ribs. Adam Pearce ended up running out with officials to pull Kross away. Sami Zayn was in pain. And pretty much Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back, Sami Zayn was in the ring. Adam Pearce was shown checking on him. Sami pulled his shirt off. He ended up telling Adam Pearce that he can still have the match. You know, he signed up for this match. So, Bron Breakker ended up coming out with Paul Heyman. So the match got underway. Bron Breakker got into the ring. He smiled at Sami Zayn. Breakker ended up sarcastically telling the crowd to look at Sami. So Breakker easily avoids some punches from Sami. He ended up slamming Sami into the corner. He ended up hitting some shoulder thrusts to Sami's injured ribs. And that's what pretty much Bron Breakker was focusing on. Sami Zayn's injured ribs. So Breakker ended up saying, "Oh, I don't get it. This guy's pathetic. He is a bum." So Breakker then ended up stomping on Sami's injured ribs. He ripped the tape off of the ribs of Sami. Breakker then ended up putting Sami on his shoulders, and he had pinned a rib breaker. Breakker then grabbed Sami by his hair. He then ended up hitting Sami with a T-bone suplex. So Sami was struggling to get to his feet as Breakker was sizing him up. Breakker ended up charging for a spear, but Sami clotheslined Breakker down. Sami then ended up hitting a back elbow, and he ended up coming off the second rope with a double axe handle to Breakker. Sami went back to the second rope. He leapt off of the second rope, but Breakker connected with a spear out of midair. What a spear by Breakker there. So Sami rolled out of the ring. He had pulling his ribs in pain. So we had Michael Cole. He was shouting that the ref, who was Chad Patton, should call the match already. So Breakker got out of the ring. Breakker started running around the ring, and he had pinned Sami with a spear on the floor. So Michael Cole was begging for the match to end. So the crowd, of course, was chanting one more time. They wanted to see Breakker end up delivering another spear to Sami. Breakker then put Sami in the ring. He pulled his straps down. Breakker ended up hitting the ropes and delivered another spear to Sami. He went for the cover, and there you go. Bron Breakker ended up winning the match. So this match was basically all Bron Breakker, just destroying the hell out of Sami Zayn. And this was all done to take Sami Zayn and write him off TV. But overall, pretty much you could call this match a squash match here. Just this was all Bron Breakker here throughout the match. So then we saw Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce was talking with the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar. So the New Day walked up. Both Kofi and Xavier Woods were dressed in black. They were mourning them losing the World Tag Team titles. And I'm like, earlier, we had a memorial from Roxanne Perez for Liv Morgan. And, she was mourning Liv Morgan. Now here, we saw the New Day mourning them losing the World Tag Team titles. I'm like, what is this, Raw funeral tonight? Raw is funeral? So, the New Day ended up saying that Adam Pearce let the Judgment Day kill the whole tag team division. So they were like, where's our rematch? To which Eric ended up telling the New Day that they don't get automatic rematches. So Becky Lynch ended up coming up to the New Day. And Becky Lynch offered her condolences to them losing the titles. So Becky ended up saying that Adam Pearce has bad ideas. And she ended up complimenting the New Day on them getting rid of Big E. Which she ended up saying, oh, Big E was a scumbag. And then Becky Lynch ended up walking off. And that was that. And then Becky Lynch came out after Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial. And she got on the mic. Oh, God. This segment. Ugh. Becky ended up saying that she wants to know how two losers who beat each other last week have a title match against her at Evolution. She ended up saying that it's a triple threat. So, statistically, she's at a disadvantage. And Becky was like, oh, can someone explain how that works? She ended up saying that she gets it. She ended up saying that from Adam Pearce's perspective, she's the greatest female wrestler who has ever lived. She ended up saying that Sports Illustrated confirmed it. She ended up saying that she's done so much. She ended up saying that you need her on Evolution. She ended up going to say that she beat both Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, and neither of them deserve an opportunity. She ended up saying that she deserves to pick her opponent. And she was like, oh, well, others have picked their opponents. Io picked her opponent. Tiffany Stratton picked her opponent. So Becky Lynch ended up saying that it's all a show and a ruse. She ended up saying that Bayley and Lyra are in cahoots because they know that's the only way they can get the title off of each other. She ended up saying last week they pinned each other. And statistically, that's a rarity. So Bayley ended up charging down to the ring with a mic in hand. So before Bayley could say anything, Lyra ended up making her way out. Lyra ended up making her way down the aisleway. She bumped Bayley on the way to the ring. So Lyra got into the ring. Lyra ended up saying that her title is wrapped around the waist of someone who is crazy. she ended up saying that it's time she takes it back. Bayley then got into the ring, and she wasn't happy with Lyra. Bayley ended up saying that she'd have been champion if not for Lyra 2 weeks ago. So Lyra was like to Bayley, "Oh, I cannot believe you are speaking to me." Bayley then ended up saying that she doesn't need partners or friends, and that she does need the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So Becky was cackling a bit. She ended up saying that it's nice to see Bayley not trying so hard. Becky ended up saying that Lyra dropped her like a hot potato. So Lyra ended up saying that she wants to set the record straight, and that she didn't bring Becky back. She ended up saying that Becky called her after the attack at WrestleMania. She was saying this to Bayley. So Becky ended up saying that there wasn't much hesitation. Becky ended up saying that Bayley is everything she's pretending to be. So Lyra ended up saying that Becky can't get in her head anymore. Lyra ended up saying that Becky is right, that Bayley doesn't care about friendship when it comes to championship gold. To which Lyra ended up saying that makes Bayley just like Becky. Lyra ended up saying that she knows what she has to do on Sunday. Rescue the Women's Intercontinental Championship from 2 massive disappointments. So Bayley ended up saying that she sat front row when Lyra was the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion. She ended up saying that when they had the tag team tournament to get to WrestleMania, she saw Lyra put in the work. Bayley then ended up saying that she watched Lyra lose that championship and raise Becky's hand like a little bitch. So Lyra then ended up striking Becky. She then started brawling with Bayley. So Bayley and Lyra were going at it. Lyra then knocked Bayley out of the ring. She ended up pinning a wrecking ball dropkick to Bayley. Becky ended up going for the manhandle slam on Lyra, but Lyra countered and she ended up delivering the Nightwing to Becky. Bayley then ended up running in. Lyra then picked Bayley up and she delivered the Nightwing to Bayley as well. Lyra then picked up the Women's Intercontinental Championship and she started talking trash to Becky. And pretty much that was basically that. Overall, very cringe segment this was. I mean, does anybody care about this at Evolution? Does anybody? So then we saw Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was in the locker room with both Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker. Rollins ended up saying that the match with Sami went exactly as it should have. He ended up noticing Breakker had his head down. Rollins ended up asking to Breakker, "What's wrong?" Breakker ended up asking, "Oh, what are we going to do about carrying Cross?" He ended up saying that people are going to think he couldn't do it on his own. So Rollins was like to Breakker, "Oh, forget about carrying Cross." So he ended up saying that Breakker still got Sami Zayn with 3 spears. So Paul Heyman walked in. He looked all sad. Paul Heyman ended up asking them, "Oh, have you heard the news?" Paul Heyman ended up saying to Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed, and Bron Breakker that Sami Zayn is out of action indefinitely. So Paul Heyman smiled, and both him, Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed, and Bron Breakker all celebrated. So Rollins ended up asking why Bronson Reed is laughing. Because Jey is in perfectly fine health. Bronson Reed ended up saying that he won't be when he's done with Jey. So pretty much that was basically that. And then we had the match. Jey Uso versus Bronson Reed. And this was just meh, in my opinion. Match got underway. Jey ended up starting punching Bronson Reed. Reed cut Jey off and he ended up going for an avalanche, but Jey moved out of the way. Jey striked at Reed and ended up delivering a snap kick. Reed then blocked the whip from Jey. He ended up sending Jey hard into the corner, and he avalanched Jey down. So Reed then ripped Jey's shirt off and started clubbing Jey's back. He then punched Jey in the face. Reed then dropped a big elbow as he looked around. Jey then avoided a senton splash from Bronson Reed, and he started punching away at Reed with some punches. Jey then ended up kicking an uppercut on Reed. He then delivered an enziguri, which knocked Reed out of the ring. Jey then hit the ropes, and he connected with a suicide dive, which sent Bronson Reed over the commentary table. This led to Jey clearing the commentary table off, and he rolled into the ring to break up the count. Bronson Reed then headbutted Jey, and he ended up lifting Jey up. But Jey slid off, and he super kicked Bronson Reed down into a chair. So Jey then knocked Bronson Reed over with a super kick. Jey got back into the ring. He ended up going for a suicide dive to Bronson Reed. And as Jey was going to go for the suicide dive, Bronson Reed threw the chair into Jey's face. So Jessica Carr, who was the referee, she ended up calling for the bell. So Jey Uso won the match by disqualification. This led to Bronson Reed heading to the top rope, and he ended up crushing Jey with the tsunami. Reed then headed back to the top rope, delivered another tsunami to Jey. So 2 tsunamis that Bronson Reed hit to lay out Jey Uso. Adam Pearce then ended up running down with officials to check on Jey. So Bronson Reed then left the ring, and that was basically that. Overall, very meh match it was. Then we had a video promo from LA Knight. Yeah! Knight ended up saying that Seth Rollins really chapped him. He ended up saying that Rollins has a lot of paying to do because he is in debt. He ended up saying that Rollins got something that belongs to him. He ended up saying that Rollins is Mr. Money in the Bank, and it's his to carry the burden, and that burden will be heavy. Knight ended up saying that he will show Rollins what he's about. There you go. Knight, wants to come after Rollins. And then we had a promo from Rhea Ripley, a video promo from Rhea Ripley. So Rhea Ripley ended up saying that she has never defeated Io. And they end up showing, all the times that Io has defeated Rhea. Rhea ended up saying that Io has had her number every step of the way. She ended up saying whenever it was the Mae Young Classic in NXT or the Women's World Championship, she's been a step ahead. Rhea ended up saying that this is her division because Mommy is always on top. And Io ended up saying that no one in the division will ever take the title from her. So, of course, Io will defend the Women's World Championship against Rhea Ripley this Sunday at Evolution. Should be a good match there. And then we had El Grande Americano versus Dragon Lee. Of course, El Grande Americano, Ludwig Kaiser, taking over for Chad Gable because he is out with an injury. And this was a fun match here. Not a fan of the whole El Grande Americano gimmick. I think it's very stupid and pretty terrible. Like I said, it's like Mr. America, when it was Hulk Hogan as Mr. America back in 2003, but this gimmick for El Grande Americano was lasting longer than Hulk Hogan's Mr. America. So the match got underway. Both Americano and Dragon Lee ended up circling the ring. They both locked up. Americano ended up hooking a side headlock, but Dragon Lee ended up whipping Americano off. Americano ended up shoulder tackling Dragon Lee. Lee ended up rolling Americano up, to which Americano kicked out at 1. Americano ended up hitting the Hisses to takeover, but Dragon Lee ended up fighting back with a rolling Hurricanrana to Americano. So Dragon Lee ended up coming off the top rope with a cross body block. He ended up going for the cover, to which Americano kicked out. Dragon Lee then blocked the kick from Americano and ended up applying a waistlock. Americano took Dragon Lee down, but Dragon Lee started to fight back. Dragon Lee ended up going for a monkey flip, but Americano landed on his feet. Dragon Lee ended up drop kicking Americano and knocked him out of the ring. Dragon Lee ended up hitting the ropes. He ended up going for a suicide dive, but Americano ended up kicking Dragon Lee in the head. Americano ended up whipping Dragon Lee into the steel steps, and he started punching away at him. Americano then whipped Dragon Lee into the barricade, and then Dragon Lee ended up flying into the timekeeper's area. So then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Americano was in control of the match. He was fighting Dragon Lee on the top rope. Dragon Lee ended up hitting Americano with a sit-out powerbomb. He ended up going for the cover, to which Americano kicked out. At the end of the match, we had Americano end up attacking Dragon Lee. He climbed the ropes. Dragon Lee ended up knocking Americano into a tree of woe. Dragon Lee ended up hitting a double stomp for a near fall to Americano. So Americano rolled out of the ring to recover. We end up seeing him put the metal plate in his mask. So Americano ended up avoiding a dive because Dragon Lee connected with a somersault plancha on Americano. He got Americano to the ring. Americano ended up avoiding the dive, and he connected with a run headbutt to Dragon Lee with that metal plate in the mask. So Americano ended up going for the cover, and there you go. El Grande Americano ended up winning the match. But fun match it was, but not a fan of this El Grande Americano gimmick. I mean, Ludwig Kaiser, he's good, but man, to return him, in the El Grande Americano gimmick, I'm like, really? This is the best that you got for Kaiser? And then we saw Penta. Penta was warming up, and Paul Heyman ended up approaching Penta. Paul Heyman ended up telling Penta that as Rollins' personal oracle, he was shown speaking some Spanish to Penta. Bron Breakker walked up, but Penta ended up saying, "Cero miedo." He then walked off. So Paul Heyman and Bron Breakker were talking about how much they hate, Penta's hand motions with the "Cero miedo." Pretty much that was basically that. Then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had a video package of Stephanie Vaquer. She ended up saying that the Dark Angel has arrived on Raw to do what she has always done, and that is to dominate. So it was a little like, highlight reel of Stephanie Vaquer. So of course she will be a part of the Battle Royal Evolution, and Ava, who is the NXT General Manager, will announce the participants in the match tomorrow night. So I can't wait to see who is going to be part of the Battle Royal for NXT. And then we went to Gunther. Gunther, the World Heavyweight Champion, he made his way out to the ring. Of course, he's going to defend the World Heavyweight Championship against Goldberg this Saturday at Saturday Night's Main Event, which, who cares? Who the fuck cares? It's Goldberg's retirement match. We all know that Gunther is going to retain. So Gunther ended up saying that at Saturday Night's Main Event, he will defend his World Heavyweight Championship against Bill Goldberg. He ended up saying for the last 2 weeks, he's been verbally abusing Goldberg in the middle of the ring. He ended up saying so far, Goldberg has done nothing about it. Gunther ended up saying that he can only assume that Goldberg is afraid of him and of the pressure. So Goldberg arrived in the parking lot. He drove up in this nice red sports car. So Goldberg walked backstage. He entered into gorilla position. He went out to the stage. He did not do his whole, punches and that kick that he does. So he was being very serious here. So Goldberg headed down to the ring, and he got right in Gunther's face. So Goldberg was like, "Oh, we should fight right now." And we had the crowd there in Rhode Island. They were chanting, "Holy shit, holy shit." And I'm just sitting here, and while they're chanting, "Holy shit," I'm sitting here, I'm like, why are they chanting "holy shit" for? Why? This is going to be a match that's going to last 2 or 3 minutes tops at Saturday night's main event. It's going to be jackhammer, spear, spear, jackhammer, kick out, spear, spear, jackhammer, kick out, jackhammer, spear, spear, go for the cover, and then Gunther comes and, lays out Goldberg, goes for the cover, there you go. That's all the match is going to be on Saturday. So we had Gunther end up going to speak. Goldberg swatted the mic out of Gunther's hand. Goldberg was like to Gunther, "Oh, give me a free shot. Hit me right here." So Gunther ended up going to punch Goldberg. Goldberg blocked the shot and he punched Gunther to the ground. Goldberg was sent up to hit the spear, but Goldberg bailed out of the ring, and pretty much that was basically that. Who fucking cares? Who the hell cares about this match? Gunther is going to retain. If they put the title on Goldberg, what a terrible, awful creative decision that would be. But yeah, Gunther is going to retain. Like I said, this match is going to last 2 or 3 minutes tops. Spear, spear, cover, kick out, jackhammer, cover, kick out. Then Gunther is going to lay out Goldberg. That's how the way I see it. Oh. Main event. Penta versus Seth Rollins. This was a good match here. Good main event. Match got on the way. Penta immediately ended up super kicking Rollins out of the ring. Penta ended up attacking Rollins at ringside. He ended up knocking Rollins into the Prime Energy Hydration Station there by the commentary table. Penta then ended up attacking Rollins' knee, and he bounced Rollins off the barricade. Penta then ended up pushing Rollins against the ring post, and he chopped at Rollins' chest. Penta was like, "Shh." And then he just laid the chop to Rollins. It reminds me of when the Big Show, Paul White, used to do the chop, where he would do like the chop, and then, at points he would go, "Shh," just for the crowd to listen to the huge sound of the chop. So Penta ended up attacking Rollins, and he bounced Rollins off the commentary table. Penta stood on the commentary table. He then pressed Rollins against the ring post. He ended up going for another chop to Rollins. Rollins moved out of the way, and Penta slammed his hand against the ring post. Rollins then ended up sending Penta into the timekeeper's area. Penta then came back and blindsided Rollins with a diving hurricanrana off the barricade. Penta ended up getting Rollins back into the ring. Rollins ended up attacking Penta, and he smothered Penta in the corner. Penta quickly booted Rollins, and he ended up going for a handspring slingshot dropkick, but Rollins moved out of the way. Rollins quickly ended up snapping Penta off the top rope, and he was going for the pedigree, to which Penta ended up avoiding that. Rollins then blocked the super kick from Penta, but Penta caught Rollins with a clothesline over the top rope. This led to Penta delivering a tope con hilo onto Rollins. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rollins was in control of the match. He ended up hitting a snapmare, and he ended up kicking Penta in his spine. And Rollins, when it showed the close-up on his face, he had a cut above his right eye. So Rollins ended up using Penta's mask to wipe, a little bit of the blood away, and he applied a bear hug onto Penta. So Penta ended up fighting up. He ended up chopping out of the bear hug. Rollins ended up sending Penta into the ropes, but Penta ended up holding the ropes. Penta then booted Rollins and ended up kicking Rollins in his knee. Penta then ended up hitting a reverse sling blade. Penta then ended up taking Rollins down the corner, ended up hitting a handspring slingshot dropkick. Penta then set up for the Penta driver, but Rollins ended up elbowing out of that. Rollins went for a buckle bomb, but Penta ended up getting away from that. Rollins then ended up sending Penta into the corner. Penta countered with a slingshot backstabber. He ended up going for the cover, to which Rollins ended up kicking out. Penta was sent up for the Mexican Destroyer, but Rollins countered that by lifting Penta up. Penta slid off and kicked Rollins. Penta ended up going for a tornado DDT. Rollins caught Penta and delivered a gutbuster. Rollins then headed to the top rope. He was mocking the Cierto Miedo taunt, and Rollins ended up laying out Penta with the frog splash. He ended up going for the cover, to which Penta kicked out. You had Rollins, Penta ended up going for a run in Hurricanrana. Rollins countered with a buckle bomb. Penta immediately popped out of the corner and delivered the Mexican Destroyer to Rollins, which that was great. So Penta ended up going for the cover. Rollins grabbed the bottom rope because Penta ended up covering Rollins by the rope, so that led to Rollins grabbing the bottom rope. At the end of the match, Penta was signaling to put out Rollins, but Rollins headbutted Penta, low blowed him. Penta ended up dropping to his knees. The ref didn't even see any of this. So Rollins then connected with a stomp. Rollins then ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Seth Rollins ended up winning the match. So post-match, Rollins went over to Paul Heyman. He told Paul Heyman to make the call. Paul Heyman then got his phone out, and we saw Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. They ended up coming out to the stage. All of a sudden, LA Knight was behind Rollins. Knight ended up attacking Rollins from behind, and he laid out Rollins with the BFT, the blunt force trauma. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed chased Knight out of the ring. Breakker tripped getting out of the ring, and he took like this header over the barricade, this weird header over the barricade to chase Knight. So pretty much that was basically how Monday Night Raw went off the air. Overall, good main event match between Rollins and Penta here, but overall, a very mediocre Monday Night Raw this was. It did nothing to hype us up for both Saturday night's main event and Evolution. But just found the show mediocre, in my opinion. But anyway, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoy this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and be sure to check me out tomorrow night on my buddy Luke Ponto's channel at 8 p.m. Eastern as we do another episode of the Movie Fanatics. So join us for, to get the latest of the movie news happening. So join me on Luke Ponto's channel tomorrow night. And until next video, I'll see you all later.